mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
hi, it's Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor gang. We
sure?
think no, I'm not sure. I don't know whether we're recording. I think we're streaming. And joining us from the great state of Democrat Georgia is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
And a hearty, heartfelt welcome to you all.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the gang, thank you, sir. In Massachusetts is with a cat is Denis Pombriant.
whoop, 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 whoop.
Hi there.
Not sufficient for a super, however.
Not sufficient for what?
A super, a lower third that we are putting in
Well, now it is.
post-production.
Let's go.
That would be a superimposition lower third identifier.
I always thought I was a supernumerary.
The fake British guy is in London, and that's Frank Radice.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
And also
and
not enough.
I wasn't finished. I was going to change languages, but has anyone noticed that the tone and tenor of the Republicans is very different from that of the Democrats in this trial?
No, and let's get everybody else on the show. The real British guy is in Palo Alto, and that's Keith Teare.
True, but I could waive my American passport just to prove that the real British guy is also a real American guy now.
Ooh, he's dual. He's dual.
Wow.
I'm heading there.
Yeah,
I'm on the way there, almost there.
Well, you know, I'm proud to be an American.
Wait, but you're not officially an American until we hear you pronounce David Bowie's name.
Right. That's right.
Ask him to say aluminum.
You know, the best thing about Bowie was his aluminum album.
Oh my God.
Wow.
2 in a row. Yeah, he had trouble doing it though, if you noticed, Brent. It wasn't easy.
We'll give him a pass. It'll get better,
Okay.
I'm sure.
All right.
And rounding out the whatever is from the Seattle Northwest is Michael Markman.
Yes, where we had a light dusting of snow yesterday,
Ooh,
and we're having our first bout of below freezing temperatures.
wow. That's
Feel
exciting.
your
Rainy,
pain.
rainy Seattle is snow dusted Seattle
Ooh.
this week.
Okay, and we'll put the super in at the top. If you want to join us on the Telegram back channel, then read that super that we're going to put in later right here. And let's see, what else is in that super pack?
Our Twitter.
Yes, our Twitter identity is at Gillmor Gang, coincidentally. And
how do you spell Gilmore?
with no E and 2 L's, and it's not MOUR. Well, that's the British guy. Okay, approval. And then the last lower third would be the Substack newsletter, from which the the Telegram feed is derived. And we may be switching over to the Twitter/review facility in the near future, so that
Tools available. The tools available to people.
It's
like
wonderful.
us.
It's a paradise. It's another shitty day in paradise.
Have you heard about Twitter Spaces?
Ooh.
Yes, I have.
I
So,
only learned about them yesterday.
what is there to learn? Do they exist, or are they,
Yeah,
on
no,
the
they
roadmap?
exist. Twitter Spaces is basically Clubhouse.
Right.
It's audio. It's live audio for invited guests with tweet stream.
Ooh.
And that's available already.
Apparently, I haven't been able to find it in my Mac version of the Twitter app, but apparently there's 2 new things: a space and something else beginning with F, which is like a story. I forget what it's called now, but they've got stories and spaces, and the stories start with F. It's a fleet. The story's called a fleet.
Uh,
Hmm.
Who's going to win that battle?
It's fleeting.
We are.
and
Yes,
Facebook
we,
is,
the people.
Yes.
Facebook is
exactly.
also going to do a house version, I hear.
Yeah, and so is what was the name of that? The U.S. government is going to do one.
And Mark Cuban is doing Clubhouse as a podcast, a live podcast with a.
Does he say it? Does he pronounce it Cuban?
I pronounce it Cuban.
No, he calls it Klub. He calls it Klub House.
Good one. Good one.
Okay, so cleverly,
Fast start here.
cleverly, Keith has insinuated the Clubhouse discussion in. So do you want to burn that one off first?
Well, there's a lot going on, mainly because it's become the viral focus of attention. Apparently, Steve Ballmer joined it now and is performing magnificently to huge audiences on Clubhouse with his developer roadshow equivalent. But it's become a huge fascination.
Owner of a basketball team. What else? What is he promoting?
I have no idea. I just read a tweet this morning from Ben Thompson, Stratechery Ben Thompson, saying Ballmer on
Stratechery. This is getting funnier and funnier.
What do you call it? I want to hear the alternative pronunciation. That's all I can think of calling it.
Stratechery.
Yeah,
It's
strategery.
the George W. Bush pronunciation.
It's
That would be strategery.
It's definitely the word tech. Stratechery. It's
I think
definitely
we're
tech.
misunderestimating Keith.
Misunderestimating.
No, we're just joshing.
You mean
That's
we're
all. or
underestimating
joshing. We're
him
joshing.
in an incorrect fashion, or we just haven't hit
No,
on the.
what he's trying to say,
I thought
Steve,
we were
is
all trying to
what he's
do
trying to
Bushism.
say is I'm way worse than you're characterizing.
We're joshing. That's all.
It's just a Bushism.
I'll accept that.
It's a Bushism. W once said, "Don't misunderestimate me."
Ah.
Anyway,
I thought
Clubhouse.
Yogi Berra said that. No, it was actually Ringo Starr.
It must have been, yeah, Ringo.
Clubhouse has
Smart
become
play.
the center of gravity of all that is new in Silicon Valley. There's no doubt about that. And the number of invites and they're growing by millions of users a day.
Uh-huh.
It got blocked in China, which is a sign of success, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Not a lot more to say. I mean, it's
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Done.
Success.
Done.
Can we get a success lower third?
Oh, I like this comment. The guy says, "I'd like to have one Clubhouse sandwich, please."
I like that too.
Okay, so what about the universal block phenomenon that you put on your newsletter?
Oh yeah. Well, that was a mini.
Here's the
controversy.
job. Here's the job. Please explain how that works so that we don't have to go read it.
So, so firstly, like most social networks, Clubhouse has blocking. Mark Andreessen, who is one of the main investors in Clubhouse, has blocked pretty much everyone he knows to be a journalist. And that's fine. But it turns out that the way the block works is when there's an event, and there was Elon Musk did an event with 5,000 attendees. As soon as Andreessen took the stage and was given the microphone, his block was acted on. And thousands of journalists who were allowed to listen to
What does
Musk,
that mean? His block was acted on.
well, basically, thousands of journalists who were in the room were immediately cut off because Andreessen was now speaking, not Musk. So the meeting experience, if you were on his block list, was that you were fine until he spoke, in which case you were kicked out of the room.
So if he said he started to speak, everybody
As
was
soon as
blocked?
he had a live microphone,
And then when he didn't have the live microphone,
they were back in.
So it's just
That's so confusing. Jeez.
Michael Markman, do you understand this?
I do. I'm amused by it.
It's what engineers do to you.
I think it's a droll, unexpected consequence of a feature design.
And what is the feature design?
Well, the feature design,
is blocking.
if you block people, when the way this works is only one person can speak at a time, and whatever preferences apply to that person apply to everyone in the room. So if you have blocked people who are in the room, they can't hear you speak. They're out.
But
And
my
when you get
experience
your
on
phone, they
Clubhouse
come
is
back in.
That would be
my
a cool
experience
thing to
on-
do against the filibuster.
Nice try.
Thank
We'll be here all week, evidently.
Yeah.
So my experience with Clubhouse, limited as it might be, is that when the people who are speaking, it's not about real time. I mean, I hear people overlapping and talking simultaneously. How does that affect the block?
You can have multiple live mics on the stage. So they have this concept of the stage. You can have multiple live mics. So it can be conversational like we are. And basically, if anyone with a live mic is blocking you, you're blocked.
And so in other words, that person has to leave quietly or loudly?
No, they're kicked out.
No, I'm not talking about the listeners. I'm talking about the people on the stage. In order for the block to be removed, they have to physically do something.
They have to turn off their live mic. But the moderator can turn microphones on and off.
Uh-huh.
Why don't they just mute people?
Yeah, what about muting people?
Muting doesn't work. The listeners can't mute people. So it's either you're speaking or you're not.
Okay. And then the moderator can unallow you on stage, correct?
That would work as well.
And
If
can
you went back.
allow yourself?
Yeah, basically there's like a mosh pit. So you've got the stage, the mosh pit, and the audience. And the moderator can remove you from the stage and put you back in the mosh pit or even into the audience.
And what is a mosh pit? I mean, I know what it is in real life.
It's the digital equivalent of the real life version. It's a middle place in front of the stage, but not on the stage. And not in the audience. It's in the middle.
It's like the holding.
What are your privileges in the mosh pit that you don't have in the audience?
You can be selected to speak, basically.
You get one phone call.
But the audience can be selected to speak as well. Actually, I've got a feeling it might be a visual representation. So I think my view of a mosh pit and yours would be different, because I think it's basically who follows you goes into this mosh pit.
I think so. I think it's people in your orbit.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Either people you follow you.
Yeah.
Okay. First poll of the show. How many people, if you understand any of this, raise your hand?
I'm still waiting for the show to start. You mean? No.
All right, I'll ask you, Brent. Was this explanation effective in having you understand the block problem on Clubhouse?
Oh, not on Clubhouse, but I was just thinking of all the different block problems like in my neighborhood and blockchain and things like that. But kind of
everyone's a comedian. Everyone.
No, everybody wants to be a comedian. Nobody's funny. That's
Except for Brent.
Information.
Brent, that was funny. That was funny, Brent.
Yes.
By the way, Bitcoin is at $47,000 as we speak.
Wow.
Is that good or bad?
That's awesome.
Crazy.
It's pretty good for me.
I think it depends on if you're holding and at what point you.
It's good for Keith because
Different kind of holding, Steve.
The higher it goes up, the more we'll all start saying Bowie instead of Bowie because
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well now you're back in the comedian phase.
Dinner's on.
Yes. Okay. I'm done.
You had a poll. You were
It's
going to
a
do a
wrap.
poll.
Yeah, what was the poll?
We
Weren't
haven't.
you going to do a poll or a
Yeah.
survey or?
I just
of
did.
those?
You all, the people that raised their hand that understood it. I think there were 3 out of 6.
Oh, well, I think I sort of raised my hand.
No, you did.
Yeah. Well, that
You're one of the 3.
typical.
Did you count me as one of the 3, or did you count me as like a half?
Well,
One of the 3.
I counted.
I got it. I understood it, and I've actually I haven't experienced it on Clubhouse though. I've done Clubhouse I've clubhoused a couple of times.
That's right. It's a verb
you.
now. It's
I've
clubhouse.
clubhoused a couple of times, and I find it interesting. I haven't gotten really sucked in yet, which is funny because with the very few things that there are to actually do around here, it would be great. Now, but for me, obviously, the time issue is a real problem. Because lots of clubhousing starts when I am it's over when I'm just about waking up, or it's starting after I've already gone to sleep. So it's really weird. So there's a handful of them. So we're actually trying to put together a Americans who live in the UK clubhouse. So that might be interesting and fun. Plus, we're also doing a taxes for expats one. So that's kind of an interesting one too.
So you're kind of blocking by country.
Is that on?
No, not yet. We're talking about it on another in another forum, and we're also talking about it online. Funny enough, we're talking about it, on Twitter, and which means maybe we'll use the new Twitter version of Clubhouse when we do this. But I haven't gotten sucked in like I would have actually thought I was going to. I thought, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. I can't wait to really do a lot with it, and I haven't. Maybe, like I said, maybe for me it's a time situation. It's cool. The sound is really good. I do think I can figure out a way to record it if I choose to. Doesn't seem like it would be too difficult, but I don't even see a reason to want to do that. What am I going to do with that? Record it and then put it out and let the Republicans decide it's not true?
So
Come on, that was
Gabe
that was
Rivera
really
did
good.
it. Gabe Rivera just did a great tweet. He said, every night here, people tweet that there's something amazing happening right now on you know what. And then when I reluctantly go and check out the room, it's really boring and I leave a minute later. So what is wrong with me? Is there some drug I should be taking to enjoy these? And I replied, the drug is produced organically when your sense of self-importance exceeds your sense of self.
Oh my God, that's great. I would put that on the top of the locker room door.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it. Can I bring something up though? I'm loath to get back into the politics stuff, but I just have to bring up 2 words, a name, Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
Oh my God, really?
That interview was amazing.
Crazy.
For lack of credibility.
Oh, it was so obvious what she's doing. And matter of fact, her middle initial, I believe, is F. So it's Nikki F. Haley, I think.
Somebody should explain because I didn't see it.
So, okay, yeah. Michael, take it away.
In a word, she's trying to reclaim her independence from Trump. She became a Trump sycophant and booster until yesterday. And she said, we probably shouldn't have followed this guy.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Amazing.
Wow.
But why follow her is my question.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think she's
Well,
trying to say, follow me because
judgment.
I'm not following Trump. She's going after the other group of Trump haters. But I don't think, honestly, I don't think that helps her one way or the other. I think it's the Trump haters aren't going to want her, and the Trump lovers aren't going to want her. She's just kind of done herself in, I think.
I think you're right. I think she's poisoned her standing in both camps.
She's basically trying to be.
It was clear that she had presidential ambitions when she was governor and when she was appointed as U.S. ambassador. And she originally tried to project a little bit of independence from Trump but his gravitational pull is, and he pulled her tightly into his orbit. And
Well,
she
he pulled her
stayed there.
back into his orbit. She was out, then she was in.
Yeah, and now she's trying to get out again. So I don't, her presidential ambitions are probably still intact, but her standing is not.
Terrible.
That's why she's doing it now. She's got a few years to have everything be forgotten, and in a few years she'll look like an early adopter of the non-Trump future. That's all calculated.
It's basically Mercedes-Benz. We probably shouldn't have built tanks for that guy. Let's reinvent
Yeah,
ourselves.
but they make great cars. You got to admit, they make really great cars.
Well, I think Dennis is right about that. But the question is, what is the timeline? How long does that process of rehabilitation take? Maybe it's enough for her 2024 campaign, but she's still out. 2028 will feel a lot different than 2024.
Well, she's going to be, if she's serious in 24, she's going to be out in 22, picking up some chits for people that she speaks for, running for Congress and for the Senate. And so the real test is 22. It's a soft test, but she's got to get ready for it.
Well, maybe Trump tries to do something like primary out her.
Trump's gonna be wearing an ankle bracelet. Don't worry.
Your mouth to God's ear. I said earlier when we were just getting started, I had listened to maybe 10 minutes of the defense. And I don't know if any of you have spent any time at all listening to any of the defense, but the tone is decidedly different. And what I was listening to and found kind of interesting was the defense that was that it was, First Amendment protected. And then the fact that they started using all of these very old Democrat quotes and sound bites on tape. So they are starting to use their editing equipment, saying things like this election was rigged and you can't impeach Bill Clinton. And it was the whole idea of using all of that. It's sort of what the whataboutism kind of defense. It was really so stark. And, you're sitting and listening to it after hearing 3 days of what I thought was pretty amazing lawyering on the part of the House. That they did, I thought, a really great job. Then listening to the defense and knowing that it's going to turn out the way it's going to turn out is just so depressing. I'm sorry.
Well, honestly, it's not a defense. It's a permission slip. It's simply giving 34 senators the permission to vote the way that the Republican Party wants them to vote, and because of that, they could almost say anything. This is like a high school clique.
Yeah, I call it a fig leaf, not a defense.
Yeah.
It's not covering up very much, is it?
It reminds me of, I got an email this morning from Syracuse University, where my oldest son is a student, and it said the Greek House broke the rules and has had 3 parties in the first week of term, each of which produced 20 COVID cases. And the Greek House is basically these senators. It's like a little cabal of people who think the rules don't apply to them.
Yeah,
well, it all has its roots in the division in the population. It's not so much that the Republicans are fearful of Trump; they're fearful of the Trump base, and how it gets negotiated is going to just it's going to be fun to watch. But I think they're playing a losing hand.
Well, the long-term losing hand, I think, this might be controversial, but I think it's politicians as a class. Because what happens is there's a slow erosion where little by little you realize that every politician is a short-term opportunists seizing on whatever it is that gives them a short-term advantage. So when they play back those things where the Democrats say you shouldn't impeach Clinton, and then they play things where the Republicans say you shouldn't impeach Trump, what's really happening in the general population is a undermining of the authority and credibility of politicians per se.
I think you're being naive there. I think people already feel that way.
No, they already do, but it's
yeah, and I don't think it matters.
But it's,
well, the counter to that isn't going to be an edit of sound bites. It's going to be the success of the Biden plan. If he can actually pass it and it has an impact, it's not a question about what people think of politicians. It's a question of what people think about government. It's always been a Republican program to demean government. You know, Reagan said that I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help is the worst thing.
The biggest lie. Yeah,
and that's been their program for decades. The question is, can the Democrats restore confidence in the ability of government to affect our lives?
I agree with you, Michael. That's the key question. And I mean, my prism is almost every president that's been elected since Clinton, including Clinton, with the possible exception of Bush, stood on the platform of being anti-Washington. Obviously, Obama was the most obvious at doing that, but then Trump was even more obvious still. And so the victory of the anti-politics is really a victory of lack of belief in government. And we, the people, seems to have been replaced by they, the government. And if we can't change that, then society itself is kind of fractured because the government needs to be the government of the people. And people need to feel as if the government is doing something that they asked it to do for them. And the idea that government is a cost as opposed to a benefit has to be, changed. But today, government is perceived as a cost, not a benefit.
By some.
By many, I would say, of all political shades, by the way.
Oh, well,
you remember Clinton's slogan, the era of big government is over.
Hang on, crosstalk. Finish your thought, Dennis, and then Michael.
Okay. Well, I think there's a large number of people who would agree with you that government looks like it can't do anything, but there's a majority of people who think that government can. And that's why they didn't reelect Donald Trump. I think you make a lot of sense that government needs to reinvigorate itself. And I think, honestly, it starts with killing off the filibuster, which I think is going to happen after Trump gets exonerated for the second time.
Yeah, some of it is also, I think, a communications issue. The famous take the government's hands off my Medicare complaint. People don't associate the things they like about government with government. What they associate with government is fines and potholes and standing in line at the DMV and standing in line at the post office. They don't seem to associate their Social Security check with government or their Medicare check with government.
That's true.
So the question becomes, what does a good one look like? And if you look around the world and you try to find a good one, I don't know where you end up.
Well, that's an interesting question. I wrote a piece, probably a piece that's too long this week, about the social contract. And I'll probably be writing more about the social contract, but it appears to me, having done a fair amount of research over the last 6 months in Enlightenment philosophy and the social contract, that we've completely forgotten that the social contract is a two-way street. We've decided what we want out of government. We haven't decided that we want to give anything back. And of course, in a democracy, your freedoms and my freedoms are freedoms that we allow each other. Yeah. And as long as we think that government is somebody else, and that it isn't government of the people and it isn't the thing that we set in motion, we'll have the problem. That's why I think eliminating the filibuster is going to be the first step, because the government is really hamstrung by a minority that doesn't want to pass any legislation led by Mitch McConnell. You get rid of the filibuster, all of a sudden government starts working again for the people. And the social contract is reaffirmed.
Filibuster aside, that social contract, that's the very definition of contract, that it has to be on both sides.
Yes. I took a law course once. The contract has 5 parts.
So, I'm intrigued by the comment that Keith made, a little teeny one there about boy, what they need is a good marketing. They need good marketing. They haven't got good marketing. How would you go about marketing the government to make it more palatable to the majority?
Oh, that's easy.
Okay.
Well, how do you market anything? I mean,
Give everybody a cat.
Is that a question of
What?
I think that the Biden administration is doing a pretty good job getting it going.
Yeah.
They are very disciplined in message. They don't talk about things they don't want to talk about. They reinforce the key messages day by day. They're having some interference now because of the impeachment. They'd love to get that behind them. But it's a question of consistent, focused communication. Remember, we didn't just forget about the benefits of government. It was drilled out of us by a key, focused communication campaign. All of the Frank Luntz work, all of the Newt Gingrich work, undermining people's sense that government had anything positive to contribute to our lives.
It's also about having accomplishments and touting them.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing is that government is so persuasive; it's bound to do things that annoy somebody. It's bound to do things that get in some people's way. If you set up regulations about work safety or environmental safety, it's going to annoy somebody. And the benefit, of course, is that there's a commons that's preserved for more people than get annoyed. But the people that get annoyed have a very large megaphone.
You know, Stacey Abrams wrote a piece in the New York Times this morning, alluding to that point, saying basically that everybody's not going to agree with you all the time, but you want to develop a situation in your party where people will say, okay, well, I didn't like that, but I like everything else that's going on, or I like most of what's going on with the party, so I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to defend it.
You know, you've seen that in the Obamacare run-up, where Obamacare polled very badly, but all of the individual features of Obamacare polled very well. That sounds like a communications problem. I mean, people like that kids could stay on their parents' insurance, that there were no limitations based on pre-existing conditions, that there were a lot of preventive. I mean, if you just took every provision and polled it, it was popular. If you polled Obamacare, it was not popular.
So to me, that goes to the heart of the framing in the US. The individual rights, the rights of man, are so deep in the culture that the Republicans have always been able to successfully claim that something that's for everybody is taking away something that's for you, like forcing you to pay, or not being allowed to keep your same doctor. They always focus on the rights of the individual against the benefits to society. And if there are enough Americans who feel their individual rights are somehow undermined by society, and that kind of always gets, I don't know whether it's 30%, but it's some number of people that strongly don't understand how individual rights are granted through collective progress. Like, you know, when you flush your toilet and it's clean, that's because, you know, 10,000 people have built sewage systems and water transport and so on. And it's not your individual right to flush your toilet. That's the benefit of society. And that benefit of society doesn't seem to hold strength when compared to the rights of the individual.
Well, Keith,
I think
to take your point further, it seems to me that the GOP has always focused on liberty, whereas the Democrats have focused on freedom, and there's a big difference between the two. Liberty is something that you're born with, and it's sort of the absence of someone telling you what to think. A freedom is very specific to the social contract and what you're granted to each other. So the case can be made that that the GOP has never really been on board with democracy or with the social contract. As far as they're concerned, 40 acres and a mule, and don't talk to your neighbors.
Well, there's another factor as well. There are a lot of people who can gather adherence and funding and prestige within their local community by opposing collective rights and championing individual rights. Ammon Bundy is an example. He's currently started a movement to oppose any kind of restrictions to people to prevent transmission of COVID. You know, he's got a lot of adherence, and he's pretty savvy in terms of using social media and on demand to get flash mobs going to protest anyone who is, for instance, being quarantined and doesn't want to be quarantined, or any place where there are mask restrictions. So it's not just a general feeling. They're actually operatives working and gaining prestige and followers by advocating for that.
It seems to me that I'm not going to say this very eloquently, I know, because I'm already struggling with it, that unless people have a chance to try these things out, they will never know whether or not they can possibly work, yet getting them to try them out is the problem in the first place. I was thinking specifically of how the NHS works. I personally have a doctor of my choice at my GP office, and inside the NHS, I feel perfectly happy with the doctor that I have and can go to and can call up and see as much as I want. But I also have the support of this entire organization, all the hospitals, all the support, from prescriptions to nobody cares whether or not I've got a back problem, if I got to get a pre-existing condition, if I've got to go get something done. And I will tell you that for a while I had bought private insurance and actually found that they wouldn't cover a couple of things that the NHS did cover. So I eventually unloaded my £600 a month private insurance because I didn't need it. But the point is that when I started here in the UK, I looked at that kind of like, well, how's that going to work? I don't know. I just don't know. And then here I am 5 years later, which is arguably a good long time to have, to have tested it out. And I'm very happy with it. I guess my point is that Americans will never know what's good for them until they try it.
Well, society is a permanent exercise in trying. I mean, for me, the word society is different than the word communism, but for a lot of people, it's the same. Society is communism. It's imposed on you as opposed to built by you, so it feels to me as if reinventing the meaning of words like civilization and society and freedom, for that matter. Liberty is, to me, part of freedom. So I would even try to encapsulate that. That is the project of government and governors, to reinvent themselves. If they can't make those things popular and understood from the point of view of why they benefit you, the individual, then they fail right there.
Well, I think it's the project of everyone, don't really, though. It's not just government. It's the project of the schools. It's the project of individuals to have an opinion that's based in fact, and to read a paper or a magazine or watch an unbiased news source to understand what's going on in the world.
Do you think that
the citizen has a responsibility?
Yeah.
But do you think that the education system in America, I don't even want to say, do you think the education system in America it's broken? And if I were, say, going to, I don't know, Georgetown Prep in Washington, D.C. versus going to an inner city high school, and not having the right books in the inner city high school, not being taught civics, not being taught the things that probably all of us here were taught 30, 40, 50 years ago, that's a problem. It's not just a matter of let's make sure that there's an in-house advertising agency for the American government, but that there are things that teach people how the American government should work. And that at a very early age would be really important to have, to instill in everybody, so that as they grew and became citizens of the country, they would have a better understanding of how these things work, and therefore might accept these things.
Well, I think there are two dimensions of the problem. One is a question of equity. There's no question that there are public schools that are richer than others and are able to do more than others. That's one issue. But then there's also the problem of ideology. We have public school boards that insist on a distorted teaching of science, a distorted teaching of history, and a distorted teaching of civics. So you can have civics and you can have science and you can have history courses, but they teach it wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, 2018, a lot of people agreed with you, and we saw more people running for things like local school boards, especially women, running for those local offices where you can make a big difference just by selecting the right textbooks. So I think we're in the early stages of a kind of renaissance.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
I tentatively agree with you, Dennis.
No, I think I go the other way a bit, but it's more, I guess it's more skepticism than belief, which is when I look at the impeachment trials, even though I want him to be convicted both times, looked at from the point of view of the citizen examining the political class, it doesn't look good.
Well,
I agree with Keith.
Yep.
I'm very.
if you average the Republicans and the Democrats, it doesn't look good. If you concentrate on the Democrats, it looks terrific to me.
Well, you got to look at the whole picture. I mean, yeah, Trump lost, but 71 million people voted for him, and the way this country is set up, a minority strategically positioned geographically in the right way can hold 80% of the power.
Yeah,
because of the way this system is set up. So I'm not feeling all that optimistic, because it doesn't take a majority to run things. It takes a well-positioned minority with power and money.
Yeah, but that circles back to something Dennis said a little earlier. We have to end the filibuster.
Not only that.
But are we going to end the filibuster? I doubt it.
I'm not thinking it's going to end.
Let me just add one thing to the whole impeachment thing. The thing we forget is that Trump only needs 34 senators in his corner. There's a supermajority required to remove him from office, which is ironic because it only takes a simple majority of electoral votes to elect somebody. So the Democrats are at a distinct disadvantage in this whole process. And I think if you look at the first couple of votes about the constitutionality of the process, you get a strong indication that a simple majority could easily remove him.
Yeah, but and you would think any of the Republicans who were really serious about running for president in 24 or 28 or whatever, they would go ahead and do what needs to be done to take out, the biggest threat that they will have unless they take him out. But they're not going to do it because they're afraid. They're afraid of, the hold that he has on their party. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the people, the voters.
Right. Yeah. The threat isn't Trump. The threat is the Trump base.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that that's true. I think that the super minority in the Republican Party is the biggest gift that the Democrats have. So I think that the Democrats actually want this situation to persist.
Well, they think they do.
Well,
we'll see
what's the difference? If they think they do and they're capable of doing it, then what's the difference?
Well, they thought that they wanted Trump to win the nomination in 2016 because what would the country actually, make this clown the president? So we want of the 17 people that were running for the Republican nominee, everybody's like, oh yeah, Trump, go ahead, Trump. And then he won. And then all the smarties outsmarted themselves. So are we still dealing with the same kind of mentality, this same kind of thought process? I think we are.
It was interesting to me to watch the vote go down about the constitutionality of the process, which obviously won. It is constitutional. Yet how many of the Republican senators are still holding on to the fact that they believe that it is unconstitutional, and that's going to be the reason that they're going to vote against impeachment, regardless of the fact.
May make a little adjustment. I don't know what they believe. I know what they say.
Yes. Okay. By the way, just to throw something else in here for a second, there's an incredible quote from one of the Republican lawyers that you can't incite what was already going to happen. Now that's one that's going to be parsed for a while, don't you think?
Well, but what they're trying to do is say that the issue was the speech on the 6th. That's the way they're trying to define it. So the Democrats said, no, let's go back a few months and see that this is a long campaign building up to the 6th. The Democrats are going to try and narrow that focus again. So you're right. If the crowd was already there and they already had plans with the Capitol, and we know that they're going to attack, and Trump spoke to them that morning, well, that's not the reason they attacked.
So isn't it interesting then that this quote from the defense attorney plays right in my mind, plays right into the hands of the thing that the Democrats laid out.
Well, because the things Democrats laid out are true. The things Republicans are laying out are trying to find some kind of fig leaf, some kind of excuse.
That's all it is. This is not a logical argument. This is not an argument that can be won with logic. It's an argument that has to be won on emotion. It might be won if, for example, if there was conclusive proof of the PP tape, or there was some tape of, or some witnesses that showed that Trump tortured puppies on a regular basis, or that
neither of those things would matter, Dennis. You know that. Now,
I don't think that.
I think it was Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
It's a lot closer to reality than the logical argument. The logical argument was needed, was necessary, but it's not sufficient.
Well,
then seeing those Republican senators meeting with the defense attorneys yesterday was just insane. And it was so crazy to hear about it and to see it, and then to not, except for Morning Joe, I was waiting for this to blow up, and obviously it wasn't going to blow up because it's not really a trial.
Well, I think it was Senator Sheldon Whitehouse who said, after what the Democratic House managers presented, if this were a trial, the defense attorneys would just run and try and strike a plea bargain. They would not put on a defense.
Right.
I mean, there is no answer to the evidence and the case that the Democrats made.
The problem is the Senate is corrupt, or half of the Senate for sure is corrupt. And you can't have a winning argument against a corrupt group that's going to do what it wants to do. All you can do is look. You know what you need to do is adopt a containment strategy, very much like what the United States did after World War II against the Soviet Union. That you basically, if they didn't build an Iron Curtain, we would have. You keep them behind the Iron Curtain, and you let them have as little access to the oxygen of the West as possible. And in this case, that means you kill the filibuster, and you just
And you take them off Twitter. Yes.
Yeah, you build a wall and you make the Russians pay for it.
And put them on Clubhouse. We can do that.
Right. Put them on Clubhouse and
Go
then
on,
block
Frank.
everybody.
block all of them.
Block
Block
them.
them all.
Block
But look,
them.
here's the problem. You know, the Democrats made a thorough case, but they did leave out one thing deliberately. They demonstrated that this was all a progression from the big lie that the election was fraudulent.
Right.
What they didn't mention was that a large number of Republican senators were in on that, were amplifying that case, were accomplices to what Trump was doing. Now, where else do you have a jury where accomplices of the accused are sitting on the jury? You know, there's a process called voir dire to make sure that never happens, that you don't have accomplices of the accused sitting in judgment. Well,
Except
in this
a
case,
corrupt system.
you do.
Except in a corrupt system. And you don't fix corruption.
So which is it? Were the founding fathers corrupt? Is that what you're telling us?
Not at all. I'm saying the system's been
Well, they
corrupt.
set the system up. They set it up.
They
set it up. They set it up. But you know, the big fallacy in the way they set it up, when they talked about it, they said, we don't want political parties. We don't want factionalism. We just want a bunch of smart, good thinking, righteous, good citizens working for us. They didn't want parties.
Right.
So the whole system of the Senate, the impeachment clause, was based on the fact that there would not be parties. Now, once these same guys who wrote the Constitution started the government, got into the government, they said, you know what? We disagree with each other. I think we'd be better at disagreeing with each other if we coalesced around parties. So the very guys who said parties are a bad thing gave us the two-party system. And
Soon
once
to
they
become
did
the
that-
three-party system.
Once they did
Why is
that, the many provisions of the Constitution just became kind of a semi-joke.
We've already got a three-party system.
Well, 3.5-party system. I mean, you know what I mean.
What are the parties?
Well, I think the independents function as a witless party, a party that doesn't want to participate. So every major election, every national election has 40% left, 40% right, and 20% in the middle that they fight over. And every national election is about who wins that 20%.
But isn't it also a case where with every national election that the bucket for independents, that percentage goes up and the other ones go down?
Maybe, I don't know.
So
Keith, where's your big idea here? Keith, what's the big idea that you were promoting earlier?
I was
how does it
trying to
relate
be
what we're talking about now.
Yeah, I was trying to be positive about how you would rebuild.
Yeah, but link what you were talking about earlier with what we're talking about now.
I think it comes down to, Denis says a lot of politicians are corrupt, and I agree with that. And I think the word corrupt in an American context basically is another way of saying paid for by various people. And so the corruption is mediated through commercial relationships. So it's not like a third world country where it's, you put money in your back pocket somewhere, it's mediated. So the whole system is built on corruption as a model. It's not just the individuals. So what I would say is you need some genuinely passionate believers in what Denis has been researching, the Enlightenment kind of meaning of progress and society and government, who can translate that into normal language for ordinary people with the goal of getting back to a government of the people, for the people, by the people. That's basically what you need. And now that might not be Democrat or Republican. It's more likely to be, and I'm not saying third party, but it's a new generation of politicians. And when I look at someone like AOC, she can't do that. She basically pursues an individual agenda derived from identity politics. She's not really universalistic in her language enough to do this. It's a universalist language that you're looking for.
But there are people who can do it. Stacey Abrams can do it. Pete Buttigieg can do it. And they do it very effectively and very eloquently. AOC has put herself on the left, pushing toward the left. She's not trying to speak universally. She's trying to push toward the left. But there are people who are really eloquent, and Buttigieg's ability to go on to Fox News and make a strong case is remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
and not be nailed to the cross by the Fox anchors.
He lacks a coherent vision, though. I mean, I don't know what his end game is. He doesn't tell me that.
Well, his end game is to be president.
Yeah, but that's too personal. What's our end game? All of our end game,
Well, we like him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he has a job to do now, and for now, that's his game. He's in charge of transportation, and his goal is to take part of the Biden agenda and get it done.
I like him as well, by the way. So I'm not really trying to poke holes in now. I'm just saying there's a missing gravitas. He's very effective, efficient, young, straight speaking, but he's quite short term. What is it we're believing in here is the missing bit for me.
Well, I don't think you can evaluate Buttigieg until you see how he performs as Secretary of Transportation. Then our impression of him will be very different. He'll either have proven himself to be a lightweight, or he'll have proved himself to be a player. Right now he's just a spokesperson.
Yeah, but the chances are that he's going to surmount the reduced expectations that people have of him. That's what he's done so far. Every time we think, he continues to be intelligent, which
but this all goes back. Like this goes back to the second reconciliation bill that Biden will put through, which has to do with rebuilding the economy. But then it all falls back on the defeat of the filibuster. But I think most of the money that Buttigieg will need to accomplish something will come through on the second reconciliation bill.
Okay, so what we've heard about the end of the filibuster, we can think of lots of reasons why that would be a good thing. We can think of lots of reasons why it wouldn't be a good thing. But the real question is whether it's going to happen. And I don't hear any path to it happening.
Well, what I'm saying is that Buttigieg doesn't need the end of the filibuster. There will be two reconciliation bills, and he's going to benefit from one of them.
He will be continuing to be successful, is my opinion. My question is, how do we get past the second reconciliation bill, which the main feature of that is it's the last reconciliation bill for at least another year, which leads to the 22 election and the possibility that, that the House flips, in which case none of this is going to happen. So how do you get to the end of the filibuster? Practically speaking.
Next month. You do it really soon after this impeachment is over, while tempers are hot, while people understand the value of sequestering or putting a wall around the Republicans. You got to do it soon. And you can do it over, if you can't get reconciliation the way you want, you do it over that. If you want to launch an infrastructure bill and do it over that, fine, but it's got to be done soon.
I agree with that.
How does it happen? Is it a simple majority that votes? How does it happen?
Specifically, it's a simple majority. But what it means is there are a few Democrats.
I couldn't hear either of you. The last thing that you said, Dennis, can you say the sentence that you said, and then Michael?
The Senate has rules for how it proceeds and all kinds of things. If you watch the impeachment, you're hearing people talk about Rule 47, and people know what that means. It's like inside baseball. But there's a rule about not about the filibuster, I don't think. There's a rule about cloture, which is cutting off debate. And it would be a matter of the Senate voting in a simple majority, I believe, to reduce or eliminate the cloture requirement. And
okay, all right, that was the sentence.
So
Michael,
what that means is that you need all 50 Democrats to agree, plus the vice president. And right now there are 2, possibly 3 Democrats who say they don't favor the filibuster. So ending the filibuster depends on.
They don't favor ending the filibuster.
They want to preserve the filibuster. So Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin are right now holdouts. So until they come around to ending the filibuster stays. So that's how it happens.
So how would they come around?
Would ask them.
What?
You'd have to ask them. Everybody's got their tipping point. Manchin has indicated that he's for preserving the filibuster for now. I think Sinema's sort of in the same camp. But if the conditions were right, I'm sure they would be persuadable. But you got to wait for those conditions.
Yeah.
And I suspect the conditions involve holding up or preventing legislation from passing.
What's the democratic origins of the filibuster? Was it ever intended to preserve rights in some way, to protect people, or was it always just a negative blocking mechanism by a minority?
It was a negative blocking mechanisms begun to be implemented in the early 20th century as a way to preserve Jim Crow and prevent civil rights.
Okay. Because the British system has filibuster as well. So that I'm thinking there must be some check and balance origin there, which I'm not aware of. But
now, filibuster is not part of the Constitution. It's not part of anything. It's a tradition.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
In the House, there's a rule that limits speeches to about 5 minutes, unless there's some exceptions or people trade off time. In the Senate, there are no limits on how long you can talk. So you can keep talking. That's the origin of the filibuster. And then they set a rule that said, all right, we can vote to shut you up if you talk too long. And they set that at a very high bar. So it was very rare, only rarely would someone get up and talk to exhaustion to try and block legislation. And then
Jimmy Stewart did it.
From being an actual talking, wearing diapers, having water at your desk, filibuster, a talking filibuster, to being a pro forma filibuster.
Sounds
which
like
said,
real life.
Which said, all right, we are going to insist on a 67 vote majority, and then it was later reduced to a 60 vote majority in order to get this bill passed. So it's not real filibuster anymore. It's a theoretical filibuster.
Okay, I'm gonna call a halt to this filibuster by saying, Brent, is this
Yes.
going to happen? Are we going to bust the filibuster?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I do have a visual aid that I'd like to put up and put to the group. Particularly, I want to put this to Denis. So I saw this, and I posted this on Facebook. because I just thought it was really fascinating. Netflix is basically owning the stream right now. The content, people are just the 9 out of the top 10 shows on that are being streamed from Netflix. I'm just curious, how many of these top 10 have each of you guys seen?
6.
Tina
I
said
can't
5.
read them. I can't read them very well. I know.
Oh, can you make my screen big so he can see it?
I saw this when you first posted it. And dogs. I saw
I
this
think-
when you first posted it, and I counted 6 for me.
Yeah, I had only 3.
Just read.
There
Oh,
are
crap,
some people.
No.
I'm 3. I've seen 3.
What's the first one?
Cobra Kai.
I've not seen it. Bridgerton, I've seen.
Yeah,
The Crown.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Queen's Gambit. I'm not sure what the other ones are.
Mandalorian.
No.
That's
Only
the only
Disney.
one that's not Netflix. That's on the Disney Channel.
Well, there's talk today of NBC and Comcast merging with Warner to try to. I saw that in your newsletter, Frank.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My new newsletter. My
Okay.
all new.
I saw it
All
too.
media, all new, all media, all the time.
There you go. Yeah, I
So,
just got tired
Brent-
of the news.
What?
Hey, wait a minute, Steve. You and Tina haven't said how many of you guys have watched, by the way.
Tina says 5.
Okay.
See, look, I can hold up 3 hands. You ready? 1, 2,
Okay, yeah, there it is.
adds up to 5. But Brent, what is your point?
No, there's no real big point. It's just well, except for Netflix is owning the stream. Netflix is dominating how we're viewing stuff now,
Mhm.
and we're all viewing stuff in a more stream fashion, like the TV.
So I can open all of your minds to Amazon Prime has this channel called Megahertz, MHZ, I think it's called, which within it has another sub-channel called Walter. And it's full of these Nordic detective things that I watch, which are
Really good one. There's
fantastic.
some great stuff in there. Yeah.
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 I'm watching one right now. We're in season 2, which is a family at a Swedish seaside resort that run a B&B. And it's all the dramas around the family and various deaths.
I'm waiting to have my mind open. What is it that your point is?
But if you want to be entertained, about 3/4 of that list is bullshit compared to the good stuff that's really out there, buried treasure.
There's
That's
a
actually
lot
kinda
of
true.
so much. There's so much stuff on the stream. It's ridiculous, and there's just so much more coming down the pike. It's ridiculous, and you're you're just so right, Brent. I mean, traditional television. Even then, look at the numbers of in sports these days. I mean, there's and certainly in broadcast television, those numbers are declining. Where's the numbers? Where's the power? It's in the stream.
The only time I actually watch like regular TV is for live sports and kind of news. Other than that, I'm watching stuff. Like you said, I'm finding all sorts of like channels that I had never heard before because the content, there's so much variety in the content. I think about 90% of my time that I'm watching something is spent not watching it on a regular TV or a regular TV channel.
I don't think I might have said this last week, but I don't actually remember. So I'm going to say it again. As a Directors Guild member, I get the DVDs.
Yeah, you said.
And most of them were Netflix films.
So dominating the awards so far that have been announced, or at least the nominations. We'll see if they dominate the awards.
Yeah.
Well, my big question is: Are we all Denis at this point because we don't watch TV? It's not that we don't watch content; we're just not watching it on like the traditional TV anymore.
What is the traditional TV? It's this new stuff.
I do watch a traditional TV. I just have it showing me streamed stuff from the internet.
Right. Well, I guess
TV is not dead, but broadcast TV is dying.
Right.
Well, hey, wait a minute. It doesn't make you Denis.
Are any of you
There is-
watching?
Say you read a
there's-
book.
Are any
There's
of you
only one
watching?
Dennis.
Are any of you watching Bryan Cranston in Your Honor?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
That is
fabulous,
great.
incredible. Yeah.
No
So-
spoilers. Thank God. Thank God they don't do that, dump and run Netflix strategy. That's the one show.
I like Dump and Run, but because I'm tired of waiting for this 10th episode. I want to watch it now, but I can't.
But I don't care about all those other shows because I know that I can find out the answer.
Well, I'm watching Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad. I'm doing a rewatch.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
Wait a
end
minute.
well.
That's so well.
Spoiler alert.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute,
it
wait a minute.
doesn't end well.
The fun is not in the fun is not in getting the answer. The fun is going through the process and then getting the answer.
It's the journey, Brent.
It's the journey. That's right. And I like my journeys binged as opposed
I
to
have two words for you. Peaky Blinders.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, that was good.
Really
Why,
good.
aye, man. Peaky Blinders.
Uh-oh.
That's the Geordie. That's Geordie. They're in Birmingham, so it's more like Peaky Blinders.
I was wondering if we're going to get the
Peaky,
real pronunciation.
Peaky. That's
That's
very
different.
peaky.
I love
this
these British
conversation.
accents.
Where are you
They
from? I'm from
minutely
Birmingham.
different.
I'm from Birmingham.
That sounded a little Liverpudlian there, a little bit.
It is close.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liverpudlian, huh?
Yeah.
Like Lilliputian?
Otherwise-
Exactly.
Otherwise
Hey.
known as Scouse. Scouse is Liverpudlian.
And we all get
only-
together and beat up on.
Funnily enough, when you watch these Nordic things, you realize how much Viking is in English. Like in where I'm from, when you meet someone in the street, you say, hey up, which means hi, how are you doing? Or what's going on? Hey up. And that
I
is
like that.
totally Swedish.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Vikings have a lot of influence in the British Isles.
What about the Huns?
A lot more. Swedish is Germanic. So it's all Germanic.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it Attila or Attila?
Attila.
Is it IKEA or IKEA?
IKEA.
What's the
Is it-
difference?
Is it Pantene or Pantene?
Wow.
That one I've passed.
Is it Adidas or Adidas?
Adidas.
Is it aluminum or aluminium?
Aluminium.
It's gonna take us out, isn't it?
Yeah. We've gotten to that point, Brent. We've gotten to the Brent. We've reached
gotten
the
to
Brent.
that point.
Yes, Brent. We have Brented this conversation.
Well,
Everybody.
I hate these
The
kinds of
Brenton points.
put downs of the show, but in this case, totally apt.
Well, I think this ought to be the traditional ending, just to go through some pronunciations. Then we know the show's over.
I actually want to put out a call to our hardware techies out there. I am trying to find something called an M2 NVMe NAS.
oh wow.
So M2 NVMe is the little flash drives that are inside an iPad. And it's like it looks like a memory chip with a slot and you plug it in. Here's one now, I'll show you one. This is a M2, that's that connector there, NVMe. And what I want is to plug 6 or more of those into a storage device with an Ethernet cable and have it be storage for the whole house. But right now you can only get that with regular hard drives, which are slow and loud. These are silent. So it looks like no one's invented it yet. And if they haven't, we should do it. So anyone there who's a hardware person,
You just gave it away, babe.
it's okay. People are slow to pick up on new
You
ideas.
just
Reminiscent of the crunch board, by the way. Remember that?
Well,
Yeah,
you could do this on Clubhouse.
It didn't
No.
work. Oh, no, you can't. Luckily, you can't record it.
There you go.
Just take some of that Bitcoin you have and buy somebody to do that for you. Yeah.
I've only got 2 Bitcoins, but still, it's better than none.
Yeah, it's pretty good right now.
Yeah, I'm saying that's not bad at all.
Okay. Any last subjects before we go to last thoughts?
Yeah, I got one. It's a question for Keith. Keith, why would anybody want that device if they could just store stuff up in the cloud?
Well, it's for video editing. Like locally, I can get. I've got these locally plugged in via Thunderbolt. So I've got 2 16 gigabyte terabyte storage devices
Nice.
that all my videos on, and one is a mirror to the other. So I back it up every night, and I get like 1,500, 1.5 gig per second to them, but I can only plug them into one computer. What I want is that performance where more than one computer in the house can get it, and 10 gig Ethernet can give you that now, whereas the cloud can only do 1 gig.
You know, Oracle just released a device this week, which would be overkill for you, but it's a box. It weighs 38 pounds. It's basically internet in a box, but it's got a couple of or many terabytes of storage and 40 OCPUs. If money's no object,
money's always an object.
It's probably one of those Bitcoins. It's SSID, I guess. Must be.
Here's the thing:
no moving parts.
Is it small enough and cheap enough that my wife won't notice?
You have that too?
I think.
Well, I'm sure.
$100 a month.
Luckily, she's not watching, so
She's just going outside the window, but she can't hear me.
I think it's $600 a month, but you might have trouble getting it. I think they're aiming at it DoD and government apps right now.
So these things are, you can get a 4 terabyte one of these for $800 and a 2 terabyte one for like $200. So you basically want to just plug these in, like a lot of them, and have a networking stack on a box. I reckon you could build the whole thing for under $1,000 for using 2 terabyte ones. That anyone that does any kind of home video would pay for.
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
Brent, any thoughts?
None whatsoever.
Excellent. Michael,
I've been trying to let my mind go blank.
how's that going for you?
What?
How's that going for you?
I think that was the answer.
Apparently, it's very easy when I'm speaking.
Oh, no. You keep me very engaged. I just don't have one of those devices available.
Well, luckily, you can buy from Keith the last generation of technology. That's what he's trying to do.
Oh, you can always do that. Yeah.
Replace his Big Mac with
This is my old one. This is my old one that has 16 terabytes in it. It's quite big, as you can see.
Wow.
And here's the new one that goes inside a machine, or even smaller still.
Boy, I totally get the
This is
problem your wife has with your
this
shit.
is now 16, this is 16 terabytes.
This is only 3 terabytes, so this doesn't really, yeah. I have terabyte envy there.
Yeah. I think I just screwed myself up by pulling that out.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. That's right.
Some people just buy fishing boats.
Okay, Frank, any further thoughts?
Not a one. I'm still sort of stuck on this whole idea of an in-house advertising agency for the American government. But more and more I think about it, it feels like the Department of Propaganda. So
It sounds a little Goebbels-like to me. Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's what the last administration had, didn't Fox News, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kayleigh Mackin.
Yeah.
Well, that was outsourced then.
Yeah, that was outsourced. That was third party.
their in-house propaganda was so inept that that it just alienated people.
Almost destroyed democracy. That's how inept it was.
Yeah. But one of them is running for Senate and might win. So let's keep our eye on that.
Who's that?
Huckabee.
Yeah.
No, she's
Huckabee.
running for governor.
Governor, I'm
Governor,
sorry. Either, governor, senator, congressman. Does America care? I don't think so.
Okay. And Denis?
only when it's very specific. Like right now, I care about the senators, but when it comes to something that really affects me, I'll care about the governor. Unless it's a big deal and it hits the Congress first, then I'll care about the Congress. What?
What? Yes. What? Yes.
Denis, any final thoughts?
Thank you for your input. I think I'm going to devote more time to writing about the social contract.
Rousseau will gladly thank you. Well, not really gladly thank you. He's dead, but you know.
Rousseau's been dead a long time. So's Locke. So's Montesquieu.
Hey, speaking of this, I think we should mention that the great Chick Corea passed away, and
Yes.
Honestly, that when that's. I've been talking to a lot of my musician friends about how it just feels like maybe it's because we're musicians that we're thinking about all these great musicians who have been passing away lately.
Yeah.
Because like lots of people pass away, but it feels like that band in heaven just keeps getting better and better and better. I mean, Elliot Mazer, who was probably one of the best known great engineers / producers of our time, also recently passed away. It's overwhelming, and maybe it has a lot to do with I'm getting older, and those people that were my heroes are.
This is Denis. You should read this.
I think I've got that somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
It's really good. It's very thick.
I didn't know George Lucas wrote that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, this is George's granddad, born in Hungary.
Oh.
Can you send me that on a thumb drive?
Put it on your 1,000 terabit storage facility.
It's basically all about how Nietzsche unraveled everything good about thought.
Kind of like this show, huh?
Yeah.
We do that every day or every Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
6:30. Yeah.
What do you mean by that, Brent?
No meaning.
He was comedian. We're back to the beginning. It all comes full circle.
No,
But
it
I'm not
doesn't.
funny, so
Jokes don't have to be true. They just have to be funny.
What?
I failed on both counts then. So yeah.
Keith's
I don't
right.
know, a joke that's true is actually much more funny, I think.
Yeah, they're the only jokes that are funny are true.
No, a joke doesn't have to be truly true. It needs to be perceived as plausible.
We're going
Wow,
right
kind
down
of
the
like
rabbit
the
hole.
government. Kind of like the government.
What was that quote from The Godfather? Every time I think I'm out, anyway,
They
No,
pull
it's
it back in.
it's leave the gun, take the cannoli.
that's a good one too.
Well,
Okay. It's like,
I'm sorry, Steve. I don't know what it is you're talking about over this. It just doesn't make much sense to me.
Wow, that was actually pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
that is good. So,
Had years
better
of
than
practice
mine.
on that
Frank,
one.
wrap up the Frank gang.
I want to say this to all of my people out there that if you don't do it the right way, the girl dies.
Dang.
Ooh,
Wow. kind of dark.
kind of. Okay, I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor. I want to thank everybody's still here, so I can thank you
Thank you.
in person. Thanks, Brent Leary. Thanks, Denis Pombriant.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Michael Markman.
My pleasure.
And now there's a difficult choice. Thanks, Keith Teare.
I want to say it's the Goyle, not the girl. The Goyle.
And thanks,
Hello.
Frank Radice.
It's Mr. Brando to you.
My pleasure to be here and be a part of this esteemed group.
Steamed is correct.
Steve.
I do a really good impersonation of this French communist called Ernest Mandel, but you wouldn't know who he was, so you wouldn't know if
Yeah.
it was good.
But unfortunately, we just heard about it.
Je parle un peu français.
What would the point of that impression be?
The people will win one day.
This is good.
Very good, very good.
We're not going to be able to do that on this show.
That
but-
sounded very much like Maurice Chevalier.
Tank heaven for little girls.
Wow.
You can't
I don't
sing
think-
that song anymore.
I don't
Dennis.
think this
That-
show
that
is
song has
ever gonna
been
end.
cancelled.
By the way, the
Ever since Hugh
producer,
Hefner started singing it, it's in the tank.
the director of the RBG movie, the documentary about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, reminds me that the song that was the theme of that show was called "I'll Fight." Just saying.
Is that person watching?
No, she sent it to me on a tweet.
I just got a subscription to my newsletter while we were speaking. It's amazing.
All right. It was
I
because of
subscribed.
it was for that last impersonation you just did. That's
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still reverberating as a result.
You want to translate it into French now.
I think it's time to stop the stream.
All right, Tina's trying to get me to shut up now,
Oh,
as opposed to talk more.
wind it up.
Okay. Sounds like-
I got nowhere to go. I mean,
Thanks for showing up.
it's, this is Zoom, what else is new? So what do you think about these?
Oh no.
Oh.
Why'd you turn your TV off this time?
Because of the Republican game plan?
Yeah, but it's entertaining.
Yeah.
That's what TV is.
I
No,
literally,
they
I
didn't-
literally
you know what?
I haven't even watched a minute of it because I
is-
just can't bear it. The
No,
whole
gonna
you know what?
end.
I will tell you that one of the executives at NBC during my days there used to say to, because I was working at the time in the news division and I was always supporting the news division and wanting to get them more airtime for promotion and everything I could. And he said to me, don't think for 1 minute that TV was invented to inform. It was invented to entertain.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I always forget.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm still on, but I just muted myself. What time are you going to be at the golf course?
No, Dennis, you have not
3:60.
muted. You have not muted yourself.
So, wanna go there?
Yeah, I'll see you there.
I think it's time to end.
Bye.
Yeah, that was a
Time
moment.
to- Time to end here.
Does anybody know the last
We're
line?
still streaming, aren't we?
Yes,
Yes,
of course we are.
we
We're still
are.
recording and streaming, and the show's not over.
It never ends.
Because I haven't
Really
said
over.
what it said. The line is, thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't.
Yeah.
All right, so does anybody want to do that line?
Oh, you just did.
You just
You
did
did
it.
it.
You just did it. Can
just
we
did
let
it.
this one go?
Come on,
It's-
rap, cut,
Yeah.
give him the hook.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Stream to stop. Jesus.
My God, that was a long ending.
Boy.